Oh, this guy wants more JoJo. Okay, here it is. I'm doing it. I dropped everything. More JoJo. Just for you. Never let it be said that one comment can't change the world. God damn it. Holy shit. We're here. Alright, so the last video, we were hyper and energetic. And this video, we're exhausted and lethargic. But we will bring the hype. So, Foo Fighters.
Yep. Male Plankton.
Andrew.
Red's sexually attracted to her.
Yeah. Like, it's Best Girl. I mean, Foo Fighters is Best Girl. And
Best Plankton.
Yeah. Okay, so Foo Fighters takes over the body of a woman that she killed. Or, well, Foo Fighters is an it, I suppose. And so now there's a massive plankton controlling this pink-haired waifu.
Green-haired.
Why did I say pink? What? I'm too tired. Okay, green-haired waifu, right? And we find out a little bit about her, and apparently she was like into like being kidnapped. Do you remember? Or like she had like a weird thing about like almost like a Stockholm syndrome thing.
Something like that. Yeah.
So, and again, I was talking to Andrew about this before the video. Araki's really good at like giving random details to characters, and Super Eye Patch Wolf did a great video on this where he talks about how that makes you more attached to characters. So like he'll give information that's seemingly useful, or Jesus Christ, I'm too tired. Seemingly useless on characters. Like, okay, you know, if you're writing a story and you're just kind of like, okay, we're only gonna put what's exactly needed for the plot, that will actually give you a not very good story. Like efficiency is not what makes a story good, you know. So for example, like Kira was a good example. Kira was a very good example of this, where you know he would just be like, "Here's a day in the life of Kira." He goes to his favorite sandwich shop, and he rubs the sandwich, and he says, "Oh, this is my favorite sandwich shop." You know, at like, wasn't it like, what was the sandwich shop? It was like something Ladies or
something like that.
And it was like, oh, and you can only get these sandwiches at this hour here, and they're fresh, and just like, little things like that.
The mini just out there quirk kind of thing that they give them.
So, and you know, we see this with Weather Report, where it's like it's talked about. Weather Report. Oh my God, I'm actually too tired.
Holy shit, dude.
Foo Fighters talks about the body that he took over, and yes, Plankton is a he now because I'm bad with saying that. And you know, we see little things like that. But with Weather Report as well, it's like he likes to walk on his tiptoes. He likes to read TV guides. It's like, so what. I always like little details like that because it makes like cosplay fun. Because like you can do little details. Like if someone cosplayed Weather Report, they could bring a TV guide. Well, I just got to pop up.
I lost my kgs diet.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, this is a mess. I don't know. Oh, jeez, Rick. All right. I think it's because the internet's open on that shitty website. Okay. I gotta really get myself up sexually.
Well, now I'm out.
No. All right. What do you think about the play and catch thing and the organs and all that such?
I thought it was like an interesting way to have catch be like a take all, give all kind of thing, where it's all about money and your organs.
Yeah, the stand is cool because it's like it's gonna get the money from you no matter how, right? To the point where it almost reminds me a bit of Nanika from Hunter x Hunter, where like, you know, it has to pay back for the previous wish with Nanika. So in Hunter x Hunter, Nanika, it's like I have to get something of equivalent exchange. So if someone asked me to fucking make it rain money, Nanika would be like, oh, I need to give me your brain, give me your spine.
It's like, wait, hold on a second.
So with this, it's genuinely like the monetary value, where it's like, oh, I'm going to take whatever money's on you, and then I'll take whatever's of value on you, and then if you still haven't given me enough money, I'll start taking your organs. And we know organs sell for quite a bit.
And like the thing is, like, if you cheat, then that's what starts to target your organs.
Because you make a deal, and as long as you don't cheat on the deal, it seems to be all right. But the problem was, and Andrew and I noticed this a couple times, she was cheating herself many times.
But for her, in her heart, she wasn't cheating.
That was yes, I'm glad you remembered that. You've brought me out of my stupor. Now that I had to get into the conversation a bit.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So yeah, that was interesting because it wasn't whether or not you cheated or not. It was whether or not you felt like you cheated in your heart, which is interesting because we get into like things like pathological liars or like people like, well, let's just go with Donald Trump, for example. That man, he does nothing but shit, but I highly doubt that he knows. There are people like him and like many others in the world that genuinely think that they're doing right, right? But there's also moments in life where you've done something wrong. So it's like, someone asks you to do dishes and instead you just kind of like, oh, well, I'll leave those till tomorrow. And then someone's like, did you do dishes? And then instead of saying, oh yeah, I just forgot or whatever, you say, oh, I was busy and I had to do something else. That's an example of like, in your heart, you're guilty about it. You did something wrong.
But you're not going to admit to it.
But there are people in the world that are genuinely so just like lost in their own, I don't know, I guess head up their own ass would be a good term for that, that they just genuinely don't know. They're like, yeah, of course I didn't do anything wrong there. So that is fascinating how with that stand you can kind of curb the system by being such like an egotistical prick, I guess.
Yeah.
And Poochie gave her that stand. We see a scene where Poochie's kind of like talking to her.
That's like when we finally meet him too.
See him for the first, like really like get him in. Yeah, and his whole thing is like he's the priest or whatever, the father for the prison. Yeah. And at first he's like, oh, I want to help, I'll help you or whatever. But then she steals shit from him and he's like, oh, you are no good dirty thief. I got a good ability for you that'll fit you. Yeah, so like he kind of reminds me a bit of it's almost like what a lot of people are theorizing Blackbeard is doing in One Piece right now. Like, a lot of people think that Blackbeard can just give and take devil fruits. Remember how he took Whitebeard's devil fruit? Yeah. So, like, it seems like he's doing that with his crew. Like, you can this ability to be good for you. Poochie is kind of that mysterious villain. Because there's always some force giving people stands in JoJo, So, like, in 3, it was Dio and the old woman, was it Enya? Or how what was her name? The old woman with the stand arrow?
I totally forgot her name.
I think it was something with an E, but yeah, so like she...
yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna drive me nuts.
Wait a minute, I think... Hold on, she's on the cover of one of those. Hold on. Get volume 4 and look at the back of it, or the front of it. Boom. Yeah, at the bottom there.
Oh, and Yaba.
And okay.
There was a B in there.
Okay, so, and Yaba. Yeah, so in part 3, she would just be going around making people stand users. In part 4, it ended up being Kira's dad in the photograph, just shooting people from the photo, which was that's a part of part 4 that I always forget. It's like, oh yeah, Kira's great, and then his dad just shows up, and it's like,
it's so weird.
I'm uncomfortable. And then part 5, I'm trying to remember. Oh, Pope Leo gave people stands for a while, but then he died, and then we just kind of fought, people, I guess. There's always some sort of force. I think it's so Rocky's like, this is why there's so many stand users going after them. Yep. And now in part 6 here, Poochie is kind of going to be that force, just like pulling in random...
Asshole.
Yeah, well, he's going to be able to pull in random people from the prison and be like, oh, what's your deal? What's your whole thing? Oh, this person... Like the suicide guy from the last couple chapters, like, oh, I got a good stand for you. It seems to be what he does, and that's actually smart because he has a whole album. Like, okay, well...
A whole tire full.
Yeah, this is true. They are in tires. So, like... I appreciated that
You're
comment.
welcome, yeah.
This is why I keep you here. So, yeah...
Fucking what? What was that, Mike?
Because you're useful. You're useful to me. Poochie, he can just be like, what's your whole deal? Oh, that'll fit with this ability. And I like that. So that gives Araki not only the excuse that why abilities fit so well, because unless you make your own ability, because like in My Hero Academia, for example, abilities just happen by genetics. So it doesn't really make sense in My Hero Academia for an ability to be perfectly tailored to a person, right? So like, oh, he's got an explosive personality, so he's got explosives. That's not how it works. It's supposed to just be random genetics. But in a series like Hunter x Hunter or JoJo, whereas in Hunter x Hunter, it makes sense because they create their own power. In this series here, at least in this part, it's making sense because Poochie is almost acting as like a godlike figure, like bestowing powers to people as he sees fit because they're fitting to their personality. Right. So I love that. I think that's really clever. And I like Poochie's role on this, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. Oh yeah. What do you think about Weather Report so far?
Weather Report, I'm curious as to how he will benefit Jolene and her mission kind of thing.
Because all we know about him is that he's just kind of works with the kid or chills with the kid.
Like, and there's also that other woman that's with him.
Yes, and they lay in the piano.
They take turns sleeping in the piano.
And I like the ghost shit that he it's like he uses ghost objects. That's kind of we're getting the vibe of how he gets around the prison so well. And I like that ghost objects like just don't make sense, with physics. So like he hides in a trash can and then he's like shoving the trash can into his pocket like it's like a cloth. Like it's really interesting. I'm trying to remember what was said about Weather Report. Like he went through his whole thing. Like he was sentenced for 6 years.
Oh, you mean like in that kind of stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if there was anything we missed.
I thought you meant like he walks on his tiptoes. He has to lean in really close to you in order to talk to you.
But I was thinking history. Speak. Yeah. I don't remember what he said about him.
Doesn't really speak.
Ability, early life. Yeah, I guess this might be spoilery, so I shouldn't look at the wiki. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm interested. And I guess right now what we have going on is she contacted the Speedwagon Foundation, and now she has to meet them in the courtyard. And
in 20 minutes.
Yeah, really quickly.
If I can get on that.
And I'm excited to see, Weather Report. I'm guessing is going to be almost like a what's it called? Like a stand-in Jotaro. Like in the sense of I imagine he is kind of well versed in his stand because he's a natural born stand user. I get the vibe that he's almost like.
You saw how accurate he was in making
the
pens play the piano and everything.
Seems
with
like
wind
that.
And everything.
That's such a clever thing, right? Because like the art of the flex in anime, like flexing is a beautiful thing, and when you flex, you're showing like, oh, how powerful I am, how accurate I am. And, like, it's easy, a basic bitch flex is, like, something that Kubo did with Bleach. Like, Aizen is just going to block him with a finger. Woo! And that's cool, but it's, it's pretty simple. There's not a lot of thought went into that. But making pens fall onto a piano and then using the wind to, like, accurately play a song with the pens on piano, that's just awesome and unique. And I can see that just being badass as fuck in the anime. So that was just cool. I'm excited to see what he'll do. I imagine he's going to be like a sensei figure, because as a natural born stand user, he's had a lot more time to master his stand and to get good with it.
I'm really hoping that Weather Report and Jolene are compatible fighting wise and
string and weather
using cooperation together.
I'd be curious what kind of like co-op moves they could use. I mean, weather, and again, it's one of those like Araki uses unique powers so often that it's like one of those like it's a basic power weather manipulation that we haven't seen him do yet. 6 parts in and he's just now getting to someone that has weather abilities.
Right.
And that's fascinating. And it's Araki, so what the fuck crazy shit's he gonna do with it?
Right.
Let's see here. And now that I'm less foggy minded, because sometimes I feel like I do have to just talk and then that gets like my brain blood flowing, what I mean? But like now that I'm less foggy minded, I do want to talk a bit about Foo Fighters and how Foo Fighters acts within the body that he's taken. Like I love the obsession with water, which makes sense for Plankton, and it gives him a cute little character quirk. And I love that when they're playing catch the whole time, he's like, you stay away from that water, bitch. And when he kills, I don't know if he killed her or not, but when he does whatever the fuck he does to that woman that like blows up her face, and then like she like spits it back out into it, and he's like, oh cool, there's more water, when in reality it's probably blood and viscera and mucus, and but to Plankton, who the fuck cares?
It's just water either way.
So I imagine Foo Fighters could give that good suck. Listen.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
Andrew, you want to fuck Godzilla monsters waifuized. I've seen it. You look at fan art of like waifuized Mothra and waifuized Godzilla, and you're and you have you not confirmed to me that you would fuck like snake girls and spider girls? And
I would, yes.
Yeah, he has a monster girl encyclopedia.
And
so I have every right to want to fuck my Plankton girl.
Gender's not really confirmed with Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters is in the
taking the body. Oh,
the question is it necrophilia?
Oof.
That's the real question. That's going to stop me.
Oh no!
It's just a puppeted dead woman body.
Oh god, yeah.
But she's so cute. I just want a loving I want to live with her and give her water all day. I do genuinely love her, though. She's adorable. But no, I just had to make that joke because it's an obvious joke. Like, apparently Foo Fighters is like into Jolene too. Like I've heard from fans, and then they always make the joke like, did they fuck? Like.
Huh. Well, I guess we'll have to see.
Shout out to Juice Man. got some of that plankton pussy.
Oh, God.
Mr. Krabs.
No, we're not doing
this. Shut your mouth, you mediocre clarinet player. All right, well, any more thoughts, predictions, yada yada, because we're about to read the next 10, and again, the reason this video is weird, and don't worry, I will edit around the dumb shit. Yeah. Reason this video is a bit weirder is because, one, we're both kind of just out of it today. It's been one of those, like, lay down on the couch all weekend kind of days.
Super tired.
Super laid back. He slept bad. I'm just kind of out of it. And we read these chapters a week ago, and we didn't have time to film it back then, so we had to, like, refresh ourselves. So this was a little bit of an awkward one.
Do a bit of a catch-up.
The next one will be more fresh, and yeah, so sorry about that. But again, I'll add it around, so it shouldn't be too bad. So we had some good moments there. But I was curious, before we end off, Andrew, predictions as we go into the next 10 chapters here. How's this whole Speedwagon thing going to go?
Probably not as smooth as we would like it to be.
Nothing ever is.
It never is. I mean, do you remember the fucking vehicle transportations in part 3? They can never ride an airplane together. They can't, drive anywhere because fucking
remember the car stand in part 3?
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. So just like that, I feel like, there's just gonna be something in their way constantly. So
you say that like it's a bad thing.
Is it not, though?
You say that like you're depressed about it. Like, welcome to JoJo. Like, what do you want them to do? Just walk down the street? Like, we did it!
Yes, I would love for them to have something easy for their life. For once. Easy in their life for once, fucking...
Well,
we know that can't happen.
I assume once we go into the alternate universe, that everything is just happy for these guys, right?
Fuck, no.
What do you mean, no?
That's going to be happy for them, too.
Are you spoiled about something?
No.
Okay, good.
I just highly doubt it, because it's JoJo, like you said.
It's true.
Yeah.
I did get a comment, and there was a comment about, I think I was talking about how rare it is, where, like, those rare moments in manga where the entirety of a main cast, like, fails at something. And, so, like, in One Piece in Sabaody Archipelago, where it's like, the Straw Hats got annihilated. You know how rare that happened? And then someone was like... looks at part 6, and I was like, oh, Jesus.
Oh, boy.
So, again, I have no idea what they're talking about, but I've heard a lot of grim things about, like, because Araki's a fucking masochist. Like, or what is it when you want to see the pain in others?
Sadist.
Yeah, he's that. Also, have we seen a dog get killed yet? This part. Because I feel like that's an Araki trope.
This part? No.
Oh.
I don't think so.
Countdown to the dog death, bro.
Oh, God.
Oh, I'm going to be so hyped. I'm going to be like...
Go.
Did it die?
Pretty sure.
All right, go. When the fuck? What?
Remember in, like, the beginning where they... Oh, wait, no.
A goat.
I'm sorry. I was thinking something else entirely
Are
different.
you the big dumb?
I'm the big tired, you big ass.
That's... You have a better ass, objectively.
You know I meant, like...
Oh, yeah. Did you enjoy that last video where you got to see Andrew's ass?
Oh, I forgot you did that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're going to read more JoJo. Goodbye. Damn, we back. The hype has returned from that JoJo greatness. Mm-hmm. I combined greatness and godliness and said greatliness.
You did.
Now, we'll get to the Poochie Frog stuff in a second. But first, let's talk about Anti-Grav Suction Cup Toe Man.
He was super weird.
There, I'm gonna get this mic closer.
He always wore his shoes behind him and on his ankles.
See, there's the practicality there, right? Like, it reminds me of in One Piece, one of my favorite things is the practicality of their powers, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, Alvida would, like, have her men carry her around a ramp because she had no friction. Yep, so she would be like, oh, hold on, boys, I'm gonna take off my high heels, and you set up the ramp so I get some speed, yeah. Bruh, I will end you if you keep spinning that phone. It is so distracting.
Well, don't pay attention to it. It's not distracting at all.
Alright, listen. So, I thought that, one, Araki's really good at kind of being more accurate than you expect him to be. So, like, in that fight, it was like, the big twist was, even everything I touch becomes weightless, including the air.
Yeah.
And as I keep touching more air by being around air, it's basically turning this into a vacuum where the air leaves the space that I am around.
Yep.
So she was,
and it affects a 20-meter radius from that person that's been touched.
So she was just creating a vacuum around herself. And Weather Report, obviously using his weather manipulation, gave them like a temporary spacesuit-esque thing. And in order to beat him, they had to pull him into the vacuum and make sure he didn't, because he had a thing on him to I can make oxygen. But
the only way that they could defeat him was to make him release the power, and that would make him...
Yeah, because the air snaps back, and that pushed him towards her, and of course you got the classic Jotaro Oro situation. That was great, but let's be honest here. The main hype here is the Poochie stuff.
Yes.
So these 10 chapters, it's one of those things where you're sitting there and you're reading, and you're looking like that guy from South Park when he was playing fucking World of Warcraft. He's like lean, and he's just kind of like, whatever. It was good, but then Poochie shows up. God damn it, these fucking websites and the fucking viruses, I swear. Alright, so Poochie shows up, and my god, does shit kick up a notch.
Because, Poochie knows who Jolene is.
But Jolene and Weather Report, and even Weather Report, has no idea that is the main...
Oh, why is there a father here?
Oh, it's just the priest of the fucking prison.
Warning flags did come up when he's like, hey, is Wrangler here?
Yeah.
Like, you're not Lang Wrangler.
Lang Wrangler!
So they were both kind of like...
That's a great name, by the way.
Really sus about him at that point, but they're like, oh, whatever.
Yeah. I think, so, what I liked about this was, Araki has this thing that he does where he gets you to really like, the villains are always lovable, right? So, like, Part 3, Dio does the staircase shit. That's very lovable. Fucking Part 4, Kira, all of a sudden, he's, you see that one episode where he's like, oh, I just love going to eat sandwiches, and lovable. Part 5, lovable. I mean, ow. Oh, please. All that shit's lovable. This one, what Andrew and I picked up on was that out of all these villains that Araki makes, Poochie is the most, like, real of a guy. And what I mean by that is...
the most human of the past couple of villains that we've had.
So what I mean by that is, like, he has more realistic reactions in the sense that, like, he's, like, genuinely... So when Jolene first shows up, and he's like, oh, it's Lang Wrangler, of course. And then it's Jolene. He has the most, like, what? Face? Like, he's genuinely like, huh? Yeah. Right? And he's concerned.
You're supposed to be... hold on now.
But then it gets even better. When the frog shit starts happening, he's, like, genuinely stressed, and he starts counting prime numbers, and I love that little tick. And the great part is, as we were reading this, my roommate, Paige, one of my roommates, I recently moved, and now I have roommates, one of my roommates is, like, a super math whiz, and she does a similar thing with the prime numbers, so she was like, I love him. and that is kind of right there. That's what Araki does so well with his characters. He gives them these little quirks that makes you... Because that's what... When you think of your friends, you think of, like, the little weird oddities they have, the quirks they have. Yeah. And so that is already, it makes Poochie more lovable. It makes Poochie someone who's relatable because he's stressing out about the situation. Yeah. And it's fun to see a villain who typically villains are so, like, cool, calculated, I got everything under control. But as poisonous ass frogs are raining from the sky.
He was genuinely afraid.
He's like, my favorite part was the guard that's like, oh, I don't know, I got some of my boots, I'm gonna head out, and he's just like, in his head, he's just like, you got a little bit on your boots, and I got some on my face, I see my life doesn't mean anything to you, and then he just yeets the frog, like, explode, bitch!
Yep.
And again, yeah, no, he's terrified, and he has to kind of, like, throughout this whole chapter, a lot of these chapters, he's counting the numbers. He's like, okay, I'll figure this out. 72, 35, whatever. I don't know the numbers, but I love that. And I did want to talk about one thing, though, and I'm curious if anyone can solve this plot hole for me, if this is an Araki plot hole moment. He puts the disc into the frog in order to give the frog orders, obviously, and he orders him to explode after he gets over towards him, right? But, like, can you order a frog to explode? Because, like, the only way that I could see you being able to do that is if that's something that the frog could just do, right? So, there are some animals, like, there's that insect, or is it, like, the thing underwater? I don't remember. I think there's, like, an insect that, like, has, like, makes, like, a nuclear like, a chemical reaction, like, on their backside, and, like, you've never read about that?
I don't think so.
One of the Chimera ants in Hunter x Hunter was based off of that, like, the one that, quote-unquote, farted in Kilo's face.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, there's an insect that makes like a chemical reaction on his backside, and it like it's actually like really powerful. Same thing with like the mantis shrimp that can like close its thing. So yeah, it's similar to that, right?
The pistol shrimp.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought it was mantis for some reason. So there's a lot of animals that do wacky shit, right? So I could believe that there's an animal out there that could just suicide explode. There's a lot of shit out there, right? But I have a funny feeling that these frogs aren't one of them. So I am curious about that, because I don't think you can order a frog to explode. But that was the only like plot hole I could think of. So beyond that, though, it was fucking amazing. And so what these chapters accomplished a lot for me. It accomplished basically hyping up Poochie to the utmost extent. And I find that there's a part in every JoJo part that's like this, that gets you to love the main villain, right? So in part 4, it was when he had sheer heart attack attacking them, and he's just drinking tea, and then like Koichi makes it heavier, and his arms like crash into the table, and you see how much he hates to have attention on him. So he's like walking through the town trying to not be noticed. That was one of my favorite parts of part 4, because it really introduces Kira and makes you start to love him. With Poochie here, this is kind of his moment where you're really getting to know him now. You're seeing him in a struggling situation.
Because he's always so confident, and then you see that he's like, wait, this isn't how I planned it.
Yeah.
Wait, what the fuck?
And even when the Speedwagon Foundation comes, and it's a bird, and that seems to be a Speedwagon Foundation thing, is like animals with... I don't know if this bird has an ability at all, because it makes me think
I think it's just a carrier
probably,
pigeon.
But like it makes me think of part 3 when they were like, we're going to send you a stand user, and it was Iggy.
Yeah,
They have a thing with animals, clearly. But yeah, that was just awesome. And even when that happens, he's kind of he does the whole like, whatever, doesn't matter. All I need is the memory one anyway. That was just a sentimentality of like getting back for my friend Dio. And speaking of that,
yeah,
go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say like he was about to shoot the bird down.
He tried, yeah.
But then there were no bullets.
Yeah. Now, what did you think about the little Dio flashback we got?
I thought it was pretty cool. I liked how it was, like,
him and Dio
we
chilled.
traveled together. He came to me, I came to him sometimes.
That's interesting.
And, they just became friends.
And...
sharing ideology and everything.
And it makes me... We learned a bit more into Dio's mentality, because he talked about how, like, hey, piles of money is not going to bring you happiness. Ruling the world is not going to bring you happiness. And that line surprised me, because in part 3 was his goal not to rule the world. So it makes me wonder if Araki's going to dive into Dio's mentality and maybe tell us, like, hey, it wasn't just that he was trying to do something more than just rule the world. Like, maybe he's going to take over the world, and then after that he had a plan for humanity, right? Because it sounds like he was, at least what he told Poochie, was that he was trying to accomplish true heaven. And that's obviously in quotations, because when I think of heaven, I think of like actual like Christianity heaven. But like I assume that that's not what they're talking about. They're almost talking about like an elevated form of consciousness, or wherever your spirit ends up, or I don't know. So I have no idea what that means, and I hope they dive more into that. So yeah, I mean that was just hella interesting to me.
Oh yeah.
So do you have any more thoughts on this part or anything here?
I can't really think of anything else. I think we pretty much covered everything major that happened in these 10 chapters. So
it got me hyped as fuck, honestly. We're only at 10 minutes though, so do you have any about like anywhere where this is gonna go? Predictions, thoughts?
Well, we're definitely gonna dive more into Poochie and his plans for Jolene and gang. He doesn't really know who the other accomplice was for Jolene, so he doesn't. I don't think he knows about Weather Report.
I think he does, because I'm pretty sure when he was talking about the frogs, didn't he say something like, "Oh, Weather Report"? Hold on, let me look. I thought he did.
You might be right.
I thought he said something like, "Oh, Weather Report, like this is." Like I thought he said something like, I know he can control weather, but this, or I'm pretty sure I think he knows.
Okay.
I'll have to double check. You can put in the comments if we're right or wrong on that. I'm pretty sure.
I could be wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess this one might just be shorter because I fucking hyped out everything I wanted to say immediately. But
that's true.
I just think that Poochie's a great villain so far. I loved the frog shit, was just phenomenal. And I'm just hyped to see where it goes. So I guess with that, peace.
See you.